Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time being here. I know that I said that I was going to do I know that this week's video was supposed to be me getting my hair cut, but I just thought in light of things and something a little bit more uplifting and happy, and that is talk about how we met and fell in love and all of that kind of stuff. If you're new here and you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And let's just get into it. Do you want to talk about where? Well, I guess what I should say when we met, was it 2014? I think we met fall of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I was 20, he was 28. And I guess we can start by kind of talking about what our mindsets were at that time in our life, like even before we met each other. Do you want to go first, or?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was working. I've been working for a while. I was working for a company as a contractor, and so I'd worked with a lot of different companies, and so a lot of times that required travel. So there's a certain amount of loneliness involved with that. I dated several women that probably weren't good choices. Things like, oh wow, we really get along, we really like the same music, and then a few months in, you'd figure out things like there was just base compatibilities that weren't working because you were just interested in that connection as opposed to sort of a spiritual compatibility. And so as I was sort of reevaluating how I went about pursuing women and what I was interested in the long run, so I was sort of rethinking how I approached relationships and setting baselines and fundamental things that must have, deal breaker kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I was. I was traveling for work at the time, working for a company in Alabama, and traveling from Tennessee down to Alabama on a weekly basis.
Well, would you say that you were looking for a wife, actively looking for a wife at that point? I'm just curious.
I mean, as much as anybody is. I was interested in getting married or finding somebody, but I wasn't, on pins and needles. Content, but I thought, yeah, the person, he who finds a wife finds a good thing.
I was a lot younger, and I graduated when I was 16 and worked for a family in our church, kind of nannying / house cleaning, that type of thing, for a couple of families in my church. And I grew up wanting to get married. That's really all that I ever wanted to do, was have a family. And the desire was really, really strong for a really long time. And I never had a boyfriend, a real boyfriend. I had a couple of occasions where I kind of thought someone was interested, but they ended up not being, and I just kind of got to the point, I think pretty much right before I turned 20, I was just reading my Bible and praying, and I was just like, okay, Lord, if this is where you want me to be for the rest of my life, if you want me to be single and that's what you have for me, then I'm content with that. And I just came to a point in my life where I was at peace, and I felt content, and I felt like I was where God wanted me to be. Obviously I was, because that's where I was. And my grandmother had just moved in with us. She was really sick, so we were taking care of her every day, helping my mom, doing as much as we could for that. So I was really focused on that kind of stuff. And there was literally nobody in my church that I would have even considered at that point in my life.
So you have high standards.
There just weren't that many.
High standards.
High standards. Very high standards. And then they dropped considerably because he showed interest. So, yeah, I was just kind of doing my thing, helping my mom, just whatever that looked like, babysitting here and there. Well, I guess I babysat quite a bit in my teens and before I got married. So yeah, that was kind of where I was, and so I guess I'll jump into kind of how we met and that kind of thing. His sister and her husband and children came to church with me and my parents because his brother-in-law and now my brother-in-law was in seminary, and the church that my parents go to and that I went to is it's sort of like a central church for men who are going to seminary, because isn't it like the same affiliation or something like that?
Not necessarily, but it's a solid reformed church, and it's a few blocks away from the seminary.
Yeah.
And so reformed seminary, and they match. So her parents go to an OPC church.
Yeah.
And
and
there's the seminary there is a solid Greenville Presbyterian.
Okay, so it's not affiliated. It's just it's kind of a central church for seminary students, I feel like, because that's where a lot of seminary students go. So as he mentioned before, he was traveling for work, and he would do the drive on Sunday morning, come to our church, and then have lunch with his sister and their family.
So I would show up, right, and hang out with Ella. So
he did not notice me at first.
It was a long drive.
Not at all.
It's like an 8-hour drive, and they wanted me down there for Monday morning, so I drive on Sundays. And I didn't want to skip church or try and go to church and not get in until midnight. But I get a couple hours into the drive to Greenville Sunday morning, go to church there with Ella, and then have dinner, and then head on out. And Ella was very much aware that her brother was turning into an old spinster. And
OPC had and still does have a lot of single women. They didn't have very many eligible single men.
So she had this picture church directory, right? And there's family pictures in it, and she called it the menu. And
Don't say that.
She was going through and saying, "Oh, what about her? I think she's single. I think, she might be a good option for you." And I just kind of rolled my eyes. Anyway, she's going through the list, and at some point, her father was made an elder, and so I was there at some point. He's got a lot of daughters.
But I just have to say, Ella thought that I was 16, so she never even pointed me out to him.
So her father was becoming an elder. I congratulated him on it. He was like, "What's this guy up to? I got a lot of daughters." He's coming around, introducing himself. And
we hadn't met at this point.
Yeah, and I guess we met the next week or something.
But my dad, I totally wasn't, like I said, wasn't looking for a guy, I hit my microphone, wasn't, in a spot where I was thinking about a spouse or having a spouse. I had seen him a couple of times, but really didn't pay that close attention to him, honestly. And then my dad came and he was like, "Oh yeah," he introduced himself to me. Sorry, Daddy, I know you don't like that when I talk like you that way. But I was just eating lunch, and we were all having lunch together, me and my family, and he looks at me and he's like, "So that Samuel Schultz has a really good job." And I was like, "Okay." Sort of mid-bite, I was just kind of like, "Okay." Not really. I wasn't interested at that point, but I think my mom looked him up on Facebook, and we were kind of looking at his profile and all that kind of stuff, but I really wasn't. He likes to say that I was, that I just had my eye on him, but I really didn't at that point. No, I didn't. So a week later, my parents they were away for their anniversary, so we went to church. I was like, guys, we're leaving right after. We're going home, and we're eating lunch, and we're going to watch Harry Potter, because it was October 19th, and big Harry Potter fan. And so, we went to church. He was there. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. This is going to be good. We're just going to leave right away, because it took forever to get my parents out the door. And I was very introverted. I would still say that I'm an introvert, but I didn't like talking to people at all. So went downstairs to use the bathroom, came up, and my sisters are talking to Sam. His name is Samuel. I call him Sam, though. And I was like, no, I don't want to talk to a man. Because, that was, my worst nightmare, talking to people, but men in general. People in general, but specifically men. I did not want to talk to him. So, I, came up to them.
Very, very flattering.
It wasn't about you.
Flattered.
It's not about you. It's just totally me and who I am as a person. So, I came up to them, and I did not look at him. Did you notice that I was just, purposefully not looking at you?
I didn't notice you were personally...
Did you think anything of it?
I didn't notice you were purposely not looking at me. I noticed you weren't really saying anything, so I dragged you into the conversation.
No, I was just, looking at my oldest sister, just staring at her while they talked to him. Because, that's how shy I was. I could not even look at him.
Too handsome.
And what he said was, so, are you the 20-year-old? And I was like, yeah.
Because her sister had been running through the list of ages. So
Holly or Catherine?
I don't remember. One of them was running through the family, everybody who was in the family. And so I was sort of putting together connections.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about what was in your mind? Because that's kind of how it was from my perspective.
Yeah, that was it. I was just asking questions.
No.
I was asking questions about...
No, you always talk about when you know that you have to...
Oh, I have to do the bit?
Yes. It's the best bit of our whole...
There's a moment where she's going to use the bathroom at church or something, and she's walking across the front and says something to her sister. And
no, it was my friend.
Her friend.
Sorry.
You want to just let me?
Yeah,
let me
sorry.
Just do it. All right.
Sorry.
We'll cut that. We'll start over.
Okay.
There was a moment where she's got all this, or had all this long red hair, right? And she was at. She was. I was weeping into your hair.
Yeah, I know.
So she was up at the front of the church, and she was going out to the other room, and she was saying something to a friend, and did this little twirl, right? And
didn't even realize I was doing it.
All of this long, curly, I mean, not really curly, but she'd curled it or something that day. But all of this long, curly hair caught the sunlight, the shine.
I think I was laughing.
Like something out of she's smiling, something out of a Pantene commercial. And she caught my attention. I'll put it that way.
So I caught your attention.
She caught my attention. And I think by that point I knew you weren't 16.
You knew I wasn't 16.
Let's just...
Sorry. So basically, we kind of chatted, and I asked him a couple of questions, I guess. I don't remember exactly what we said, but...
Did you ask me any questions?
Probably not.
I asked you a lot of questions. I asked you what your hobbies were and what you like to do, and...
Not talk to people.
I don't really have any. What do you want to do?
I didn't say that.
I asked you what you wanted to do, like what your goal was, like in life. Yeah, you said you wanted to be. You said you like taking pictures. We talked about.
Oh yeah, I do.
And I was telling you about the photography.
Oh
and,
yeah, that's
why don't you
true.
just take pictures?
That's
things
true.
like that. So we talked a little bit about your aspirations. I don't think you asked a lot of questions. You're not.
No, I'm
You're
horrible.
not the type to do that.
Okay, the only people I'm so bad with people. And people don't realize it who are, like, friends with me or close to me, or maybe if you're watching my videos, like, you don't realize it, but I am horrible with people. I'm such an introvert. I just clam up. I have no clue what to ask. I have no clue what to say unless you're really close to me. So I'll ask April questions and Emily and like my family and all that kind of stuff. Although my family, I don't need to ask questions. But like, so yeah, no, I didn't ask him a lot of questions.
And
I'm surprised you even wanted to talk to me more.
Something happened. I don't remember. We had some inside joke and something on Facebook.
No,
so
you were you talked about Ultimate. I do remember that because you told me about Ultimate and I said, oh yeah, I know a little bit about it, but not that much. And I remember that you said that because you added me on Facebook the next day and specifically sent me a clip of Ultimate saying, oh yeah, this is kind of some of the stuff that goes on.
Okay. That was that was the first thing. It was like, hey, check this out. These are some cool Ultimate clips. She said, wow, what an amazing sport. Absolutely, if we get married, I'll watch you anytime you play Ultimate because it's so cool.
I definitely didn't say that. So, anyway, that whole week we talked a lot. We talked every single night. And I do have to say, I was really trying to temper any type of thought that he might be trying to pursue me because there had been a couple of instances in the past where, you know, guys would be talking to me like a lot and, you know, they would say certain things and kind of essentially lead me on and then would be like, oh no, I'm not interested in you. You know, we're just friends, right? So I really was trying to like, my mom would be talking to me about it. I'm like, he's not interested in me. He's not interested in me. And I just kept saying that because I just didn't want to kind of get my hopes up and then it not work out. But we talked a lot. We talked until like 2 a.m. every night over Facebook.
It's not good if you have to go to work the next morning.
No, it was very bad of him. But fast forward to Friday, the following Friday, I remember you were going to therapy and you were like, I'm going to therapy.
Physical therapy.
Yeah.
I had busted up my...
So you were going to physical therapy for your thumb. And he said to me, so...
That was this arm, actually.
Whatever. Yeah. He was like, so there's something that I'd like to talk to you about later. Is it okay if I call you? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'm hopping in the car with my mom though, so I'll talk to you later. I was like, my mom, he wants to call me. And I know this sounds so lame, like, especially in the day and age that we're in, but like, I had never been seriously pursued by somebody. So it was very scary and I didn't know what to expect and I didn't know what he was going to say, but he called me. I think I was like yelling to my mom that he was calling me and I don't know why. That was stupid, but anyway, we talked and he basically said,
I want to talk to your dad. I asked when it was a good time to come and talk to your dad and ask for permission to pursue you.
Yeah.
And she said, well, and I think basically, long story short, they said, come on over for dinner Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, so he came over for dinner and we talked for like 3 hours on the porch and we basically just laid it out. Like,
I actually had a friend with me who drove down and because he was working in Alabama with me. I told him he could catch a ride with me. So he went to church with us. And then he was invited to come to dinner and he was like, nah, I'd rather go hang out with your sisters. And so she hosted him. Shout out, Kent. Miss you, bud.
He's probably not watching this.
No, he should. It's quality content right here. So he went and hung out at Ella's house and just, I think, played with all the kids that day, which was, I think he had a lot of fun. And so I went over and played 20 questions with you on the porch, basically.
Yeah, we just laid everything out, like all of our expectations and like for marriage, for a relationship, for the future, for children, just everything.
Just asked a lot of questions. Because that was the goal. I mentioned bad relationship before, didn't lay all the cards out on the table. And I just said, look, this is what I got. This is what I'm looking for.
And I did too. Because I wasn't in the mood to play games either. Like,
so we just both, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's an awkward thing to do. but just sit down and say, hey, these are my values.
But that was
this is what I'm looking for in a relationship. This is what I'm looking for in a marriage. This is what I'm looking for with kids. And, you know, knowing that I'm not trying to have kids with you right now.
Obviously.
But these are things that we need to know.
We had a very traditional
Courtship.
And I know that word sounds so bad, but...
we had chaperones. we were required, if we were driving in the car together, we were required one chaperone. If we were going somewhere together, like to an event, we had to have 3 chaperones. So 3 siblings.
It would have to be a group outing. So,
right.
And you know...
It was not supposed to be sort of a solo getaway for us with a sibling tagging along.
Right.
So we had to have a lot of the whole family or something.
I know that it sounds really bad in the culture that we live in, but this is what I wanted for any relationship that I had. I knew that I wanted my father involved. I knew that I wanted him to kind of facilitate everything. And that was very much my choice. And there have been other girls in my family where that wasn't their choice, and my dad has kind of, you know, respected that and worked with that and that kind of thing. But I wanted my father's opinion. I wanted his input. I wanted him to be the one at the steering wheel because I had no clue what I was doing. And, you know, I just really felt like I needed him there to help with all of that. We had a really traditional relationship. And some people might call it old-fashioned, which, you know, it kind of is, but there's really nothing wrong with that in my opinion. And if it works for you, then it works, right? And clearly it worked for us. So, but we were kind of way ahead of people, like, because I knew everything that I needed to know about him. I felt that he was the one that God had for me. And I came in after we had that conversation, and my mom was, like, asking me about it and was like, you know, how did it go? And I said, I'm going to marry him. She was like, okay. Not, I don't know. I think it surprised her because of how reserved I am and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was very sure about the whole thing and, just excited and giddy and, you know, just looking forward to what was to come.
That's how we met.
And we had a fairly, I don't know if maybe we should save, like, our engagement. Yeah. We'll do the engagement story for a different time. After we met and started dating, courting, whatever you want to call it, it was a pretty fast process, although it felt like years and years and years at times. But let me tell you right now, if you are single and you're waiting for the right person and it feels like it's forever and it feels like you're never going to find that person, I would just really encourage you to enjoy the time that you're single. It's just such a wonderful blessing and a gift, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Obviously, I'm happy with how it turned out, but it is true that you shouldn't look at the years that you're single as a burden. They're a blessing as well, and I would just encourage anybody who's looking for a relationship or feels like they're never going to find somebody, that once you do find somebody, it's like all of those years without them, it doesn't even matter. Like, and maybe I'm not saying this very well, but just enjoy the time that you have. Enjoy every phase of life that you're in, or at least try to, because every phase of life is a gift and it is a blessing, and it brings on different challenges and different lessons, and those will all be used to help you mature and help you grow and help you become the person that God wants you to be. So yeah, that's just my little spiel about the whole thing.
Yeah, and there's blessings about being single. It's hard to notice them while you're in the process. Same as before you have kids. You know, she's pregnant. It's hard for us to wait. And
I'm not pregnant right now.
Like when she
I was pregnant,
it seemed like it took forever for the baby to get there, and we just couldn't wait. And it's easy to sort of look ahead to the next stage as opposed to taking time and enjoying
and being
the
content.
time you get to spend with your family when you're single, maybe, or that you have the freedom to kind of do whatever you want to do half the time.
Depending on
or
what family you're part of.
the naps, sleeping in before you have a baby. All these things, it's easy to take them for granted until you lose them and you get married. And that's not to say we wouldn't go back and change anything.
No.
But there are blessings. There are good things about being single. So enjoy that. If
Right.
you're married, enjoy the blessings that you have. The ability to be married. If you have kids, enjoy them because they're such a blessing. And but you lose some sleep. You lose some peace of mind.
Although Roger's been pretty good. Roger,
he sleeps well. He's a good sleeper.
he does. He sleeps for like 12 hours.
But there's all the things that come with having kids that are amazing and blessings. I wouldn't change it for the world. But enjoy, all this to say, enjoy the place that you're in.
Yeah, and try, like, and it's something that I've talked about on Instagram, is just trying to be content with wherever God has me, because it is so easy to just want to jump ahead to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and this life is so fleeting, and you just don't know where you're going to be. So just, if it's in your ability, try to be content with where the Lord has you. And yeah, being single is a blessing, being married is a blessing, all of it's a blessing. Anyway, this kind of took a turn. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe we should make it like a little series, like engagement, first year of marriage, when we expected Roger, all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, please, again, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. You can go ahead and follow me on Instagram as well. I post a lot on there. I always leave it in the description below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I hope that you all are staying safe and healthy, and we're praying for this nation and everybody as we're in this difficult time. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.